You are live. Ladies and gentlemen, look who I have with me.
Hey,
Tod McVicker from Redeeming Dogs. And thank you for joining us on another live stream. We actually were just talking, Tod and I were and we posted the talk that we did earlier on my Patreon page. And so I'll put a link to my Patreon page in the comments down below. And check out the talk that we did, man. We kind of got into a little bit more than dog training, a little story about both of us, and just where we're at and what got us to this point in our lives, and how I met Tod. I actually say that as well here. Like, I met Tod at the IACP conference, one of my very first ones in 2010, in Austin, Texas, and what is it, Hutto, Texas, or something?
got it right. Home of the Hutto Hippos.
Hutto Hippos.
You remember all the concrete hippos?
I do.
Yeah,
No kidding.
all over town.
I wonder why. I wonder if there was somebody that brought over some hippos or something. Now I got to freaking look at the.
Know why they're the Hutto Hippos, but they are.
Oh, that's where we met, man. And I was there with my magazine at the time, Dog Coach magazine. I was launching, and I had a staff of like 12 people, and I was a totally different. I mean, I still am going to launch this project for dog trainers, dog lovers. But that's where we first met, and I just remembered that you just kind of stood out to me as just a kind-hearted person. But the real, I mean, I went to another conference and we connected, and you just kind of checked in on me, man, and I just appreciate that. And I remember, as I was just having a hard time, I had custody of my younger sister's kids that was having some addiction issues, and I was just looking for, I don't know, camaraderie, companionship, or something that made me not feel as desperate or out of, I don't know, in kind of a tailspin as I was at that moment in my life. And I just remember you coming up and checking in on me and talking to me, and I made sure that you knew how much I appreciated that when I called you a couple of years after that, in like 2013 or something. And Todd's a great guy, you guys. If you don't know Tod, then you should. He's awesome, but he also had a journey that we're going to talk about. And so, dude, thank you for joining me. Do you want to give people a quick rundown about where you are and what you're all about?
I'm in Dallas Fort Worth. I'm a little bit north of the airport in Dallas Fort DFW Airport. I've been training dogs professionally since 2006, full time since 2008. So that's kind of my deal. I train out of my house. When I was in corporate America, I had I had a lot of responsibilities, and I had people work for me, and that was not fun. So I sort of, when I left corporate America, I decided to stay small. I am my only employee, unless count my amazing wife who does my taxes and is my sounding board and counsel. But so I don't have any employees, and I deliberately have not grown. I haven't added a building. I don't have trainers that work for me. I just do what I do. My business is I do board and trains, a 3-week board and train. It's based on initially food rewards and use of an e-collar. I do in-home consultations. I do them a pretty different way. I do a 3-hour consultation where I'm kind of dipping into the world of dog psychology and how does your dog think and how does your dog see these situations differently than you do as a primate. Heavily influenced there by my good friend Nelson Hodges over in Arlington. And then I will go over some basics of how to teach a dog to do something, how to teach a dog how to not do something. And basically just try to leave them with the tools to handle a lot of things about their dog. I think a lot of people are interested in giving a laundry list and say, do these 10 things in this order. And I just don't think it's that formulaic.
I do that sometimes,
Yeah.
but I'm learning, and as I learn, I mean, it is about teaching. And you know what? I just remembered, you're the one who introduced me to Nelson.
Yeah, Nelson's a great guy. He's a good friend. Funny story about Nelson. So we meet people in one world and we don't know about their other worlds.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that he'd been teaching martial arts for like 50 years and all this things he could do. And I would like run up behind him and like tap him on the shoulder and grab him and stuff. And then I found out later on that he was this martial arts dude. And I'm like, I'm really glad he didn't kill me at any of the point of this camaraderie. But
I gotta find the picture of him where he's like punching me in the face, but not really. You know, I'm just standing there, and then he was like, "You got to be aware of your body," and he goes, "Bing," and then like stops his punch right here, and I'm just like, "Okay, great." This guy.
A funny thing that I've noticed over the years is a lot of dog trainers have a huge affinity for martial arts. A lot of them have a huge affinity for dancing, and so both of those things require some knowledge of timing, some knowledge of your own body. And since dogs are really creatures of touch and body language, you really have to understand that part of the world, because if you just bark things at them and shove stuff at them, that's not going to make a lot of sense to them.
Yeah. Yeah, and we learn from it, but it also, I think that it's a self-study too. Like, I don't know, like there's also artists, right? And I guess martial arts, right? The arts is in there. Dancing is an art. Um, and yeah, I find that the same to be true. Like people, the dog trainers, I mean, I'm a glass artist, I'm a dog trainer. I'm working on my engine out here, learning about mechanics and
that glass work you do. It's not formulaic. You start to do something and it's you've gotten so much better over the years. I still have those little tiny glass dogs you made me.
Isn't that crazy? That's what I'm making now compared to what I did.
I've got two of them by my computer. I think the biggest one is this tall, and then there's one smaller. And they're by my computer. So whenever I work on my computer, I see those little dogs that you made me. But
get a new one.
But that, you have to have a lot of patience, and you have to kind of do what the glass tells you to do. If you're doing something and the glass says, I don't want to do that, you don't go, well, you're going to do this anyway. You adapt to the glass in front of you, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And if you don't, and there's always a chance that if you don't pay attention, well, you're going to get burned and you're going to get cut because you're working with glass and you're working with extreme temperatures. But it also focuses your energy. I call it like a moving meditation. Like you really, really have to stay in the moment. And with the glass that I do, it's lamp work. And so I'm focused on this little area right in front of that torch. And the nature of this glass is very rigid, right? There's different types of glass, the soda glass or soft glass, where you have like what's called a glory hole. But you have a glory hole where you stick the thing in and you gather glass and you can blow it out and make these big vessels and stuff. And that's what beer bottles and stuff are made out of. But it's a lot more malleable. So if you're making a pitcher out of that soft glass and you put on a handle, and the handle's a little crooked, you could pull that back and then readjust it. Where this class is, like they call it, the coefficiency rate is much more quicker. So it basically, it can, and the glass is Pyrex glass or borosilicate glass. It has the element of boron introduced into the soda, the silica, and it just makes it so it becomes rigid very, very quick. And so if you don't know what you're doing, essentially you have to stay a couple steps ahead of the program and kind of plan it out, and you learn how the glass acts, you learn how the flame acts, and then you have different colors of glass too, which have different elements of chemical properties that are introduced to make that color. Excuse me. And this glass, I love it because it's only been the last 100 years that the borosilicate glass has been around. And so we are pioneers of this technique. And that's another aspect of this that I like, is that we're kind of delving out on a new trail that we're blazing ourselves. And some of these colors are brand new. They're being invented every single day. And people don't realize with the glass too, it's very expensive. Not only is the equipment and you have to run it and the power that it takes for the kilns, but also the gas, the oxygen, and the propane. And some of the glass in its raw product, like this is chocolate colored glass, alchemy glass, and it comes in rods, and it's, I mean, on the cheap end, it's about $65 a pound, and on the expensive end, we can get up to $175 a pound for the raw product. And you see this one guy, but you don't see the 10 guys that I had to throw away because
Oh no.
you screw up, right? And you can't really save it. And that's the other aspect of this that I like. It's just such I don't know, it's such a challenging medium. And
I find people that are good dog trainers, you have to be able to really live in the present. So that there's so many things we do in our life. Like when my wife and I are dancing, we're like dance nuts. We go dance every weekend.
awesome.
You have to be present. You have to be thinking about maybe what you're going to do in a couple steps. But if you're not where you're at, you're going to fall down or step on somebody, or if you're hunting, or if you're, especially when you're training a dog. And I tell my clients that that's the gift that the dog gives you, is it forces you to be present. Because if you are present, the dog is 100% present. The dog's not worried about what happened last month. The dog's not worried about what its retirement plans are going to look like. The dog is just there. And if you're not totally there too, you're going to struggle to work with a dog. And, and I kind of joke that I'm smarter than that dog, but if I'm 50% present and the dog's 100% present, the dog's smarter than I am right now.
Wow.
Because he's right there. So anytime that you can get something like that forces you into the present, I think that's why people love skydiving or difficult arts like glasswork, because you do have to think ahead, but you've got to be totally present, or you're not going to be successful.
You're going to fall down, or you're going to cut yourself, or there's consequences, right? And the other thing that when I was doing this class is one of my masters says, like, it's not what you can create. And this was one of the old masters from Murano, Italy, that are just the pioneers of the soft glass. He says, it's not what you can create, it's what you do when things go wrong. And we can attribute that, or we can apply that to dog training as well, especially with, we were talking about instinctive dog training on my Patreon post that we just did versus learning. And when you were told that you needed to learn instead of become an instinctive dog trainer, how did you respond initially to that?
Oh, I was deeply offended. I remember getting off the computer and coming into my wife and just ranting to her about this person's telling, I've probably done more than this person and blah, 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 blah. And as an alcoholic, when somebody tells you, you're drinking too much, you just go off, because they hit the sore spot. They hit the nail on the head. And it took it was one of my first huge lessons in humility as a dog trainer to go, this person is 100% correct. And I have got to go and plug into the dog trainer community and learn what they do and how they do it. Because instinct will take you a long way, but it won't take you all the way. It'll just get you part of the way there.
And we have giants in the dog training community that people should learn from. Who did you learn from initially?
A lot of people. And that's why I've had people say, you should, write a book, or you should, make some videos. And I'm like, so much of this stuff I've learned from so many people, and I don't know where I learned some of these things. I just know that I didn't come up with it. And I would never want to slight or steal or take the thunder from some of these giants that went before me. So I really pull back from that kind of stuff. But in the beginning, I reached out to this guy somebody might have heard of named Martin Dealey, and went and stayed with him and Pat for a while. And they taught me some basics of e-collar. I went and stayed with Heather Beck in Utah, and she was setting up her first facility then, and stayed with her at her house and worked with her. I spent a lot of time with Chad Mackin, who's now up in Chicago, but he was in Houston. And he was very useful to me in teaching me about group dynamics. I spent a very small amount of time, but I treasure it, with Dick Russell in Baton Rouge.
Wow.
Learning some of the large field socialization stuff. And then me and another trainer, Summer Milroy, did that here in Dallas. We did a variation of large field socialization for 10 years here, and helped a lot of dogs. Everything has a season, though. We've kind of moved out of that season. We're not doing that right now. But I think, you talked about, did you go to Milan to study with this guy?
No, I learned from watching a video. I didn't, I mean, but
So I think that's, anytime you're trying to learn a skill, you have to look past what's within your arm's reach, and you have to go and look out. And I think a lot of people fall into that trap of, oh, well, this martial arts guy is down the street, or this dog trainer is next door, or this, and I commend anybody like you that goes and they look out far to go see. I want to learn regardless of where it's from. It's like when I buy a puppy from a breeder, I don't care where it's at. I drove 12 hours to get my first rat terrier that I got from a breeder, because the distance is irrelevant. I want to learn from the best people I can learn from.
Do you see the screen? You see Summer's here with us, man. Thanks for the shout out, Todd.
That's amazing. So Summer has been a long time buddy of mine. We did the group socials together. It's so funny because Summer and I we had probably worked together for, I don't know, 12 years. And we're talking about the e-collar, and Summer said something to the effect of, I do all my training with just the momentary button. I don't use any other buttons. And I looked at her and I said, I've never used the momentary button in my life. I only use the continuous. And she's a great dog trainer. I've turned out a dog or two, but it's so funny that, that's a very fundamental difference. And it never came up. Does she do a great end product? Yeah. But it's just so funny. And I think that's more how Robin McFarland teaches. And
totally. I was just going to say that. And I was just, I want to chat with, I miss Robin. I need to go stay with her. I want to stay with her and learn from her as well. And Summer, I would love to have you join me on one of these live streams. I'm going to officially invite you right here now. And she's given the little love emoticons. Yes.
So
okay.
Summer is one of those dog trainers that she eats, breathes, and sleeps dogs. If she's not training a dog, she's teaching her dog to do something. So she is. If you probably cut her, you probably get dog blood. But, and I saw Amy Feltz was on here. Amy was one of my clients, and Amy, she was a client I trained a dog for. But when I was at her house, I was like, you're already really good with dogs. And she said, well, I used to be a horse trainer. And I was like, there you go. And I started kind of picking away at her. And I think for a while she was a flight attendant for a long time. And then she became, and went to real estate for a little bit. And I kept picking at her. It's like, you'd be a really good dog trainer. And then she went full time, and I don't think she's ever looked back. She's a great dog trainer. And I'm the first one. I'm always looking for talent. And if I see talent in you, I will tell you. And I don't believe in a scarcity mentality. I think there's lots of dogs for everybody. If somebody down the street from me looks like they'd be a great dog trainer, I'm going to throw myself into helping them become a better dog trainer, because it's helping somebody else has never hurt me, ever.
Well, we're helping and we're serving, but we're stewards of these animals. And at the end of the day, we're all in it for these dogs, man. And as we talked about on our Patreon, like the journey of you getting to here, right? And not only that, but look, Martin was my first mentor, and this is why it's so important to get out there, because Martin's in heaven now, Dick Russell's in heaven now, Pat's in heaven now, right? Their legacy is here, but they're not anymore. And so take the time. A lot of these people are getting older, present company included, right? Is like, the life is temporary, and we must take advantage of the teachers that are here while we're here as well, and reach out. And the only reason why I didn't go to Milan is because he's in heaven too, this artist that I learned from. So and leaving a legacy, but also acknowledging our mentors, and that we do stand on the shoulders of giants, and that a lot of this stuff I don't know. I don't know where I've learned it, but I've learned it. And I'm thankful, so thankful for all the people that have taught me. And I will learn till the day that I go to heaven as well.
Well, and I think that's, if you have a heart that you want to continually learn, I think that just makes you useful to everybody. And when you don't think you can learn anymore, you're right.
And you're dead in the water as far as the dog training is concerned, in my opinion.
but I love the fact that I think that the time you spent as a beginner being frustrated doing glass, that's how our clients feel. When Art and I started doing a lot of country dancing, it felt so awkward, and I was so clumsy, and I was so white, and I couldn't have no rhythm, and it was like, this is how my clients feel when I grab a leash and just do something, and then I hand it back to them. This is how they feel. This is how they feel.
Discoordinated, right there, and we call it the messy middle, right? And we're trying to get from here to where we want to be, and then that gap is where my job as a teacher is to help you navigate through. And it's yes, with age comes wisdom
And hair loss.
and hair loss. Well, and sometimes the lessons are brutal, and sometimes we have to take a step back and look at ourselves and look at some of the things that we might be doing that are unhealthy, and just like we were talking about, I quit smoking weed, people, I've quit it for a while now, and I feel great, man. And the over usages that we have that sometimes are used as crutches so that we can face some other aspects of our lives. And for me, it was finding the Lord again, and also reading the Bible a lot. And I grew up in a religious household, and I kind of poo-pooed it for a very long part of my life. And now I find myself being drawn back to that aspect of who I was earlier on in my life. And the crazy thing is that, there was a reading that I saw that pulled me out of it. And it was basically that after you stress a while, you're going to realize that I'm always here, and then I'll make you whole and put you back on the path that you've always needed to be. And I'm talking about God, and it's a humbling experience, but man, I feel so good, and I accomplish more, and I just feel like I'm on the right path again. And I'm very, very thankful for that. Hey, Noah's here too.
So one of the ways I kind of talk to my clients about this, and the great thing about working for yourself is I can say whatever I want to say to a client. My faith can come in, or I can talk about something different, or I kind of describe orbits. I kind of describe like a concentric orbits, like a bullseye or a target. And for life to go well, that middle target has got to be God, because anything else you put in that middle target, you'll destroy. If you put your spouse in the middle and worship your spouse, or you put your kids in the middle and build your life around your kids, or I have clients that'll put their dog in the middle of there, and they destroy what they worship.
Wow.
There's only one thing that can handle that worship, and that's a normal flow, and that's God. And then outside of that flow, the next one should be, your spouse. Then outside of that circle should be your children. Then outside of that circle should be your family, your friends, and then then your pets, and it should go out. And if all these orbits are normal, everything will flow. But if I try to move out of the wrong orbit, I'll destroy it. I'll destroy that relationship. And I try to really watch that, and I try to watch my orbits and make sure that I keep everything in the correct orbit.
Well, and sometimes it takes a profound moment, like you were saying about your father, and him losing his father, right? And this is what Sheila says about Bill. You're telling my life story too. My mama's gone now, but her teaching and prayers for me are always with me. I can see that evidence of faith in you. Thank you. I absolutely. And not only that, but I have one of the things that woke me up was a Bible that my dad gave me. And, I will always cherish this, you guys. Look at, I love you, son. It says right up here. And he says, keep God's word in your hand and his light in your heart. It says, look, and his spirit in your heart. Ask him about all things, and you won't go wrong. And I'm so thankful. But the thing is that my dad passed away a few years ago, and he gave that to me in 2000, and it's 23 years later. And it's taken me kind of this long to come back to that, and to realize the the importance of what he was trying to teach me the whole time that he was here. And in one aspect, I am profoundly sad that I didn't realize that during our time here, and I kind of pushed that part of him away, because now I really see the faith of that, or the power of that coming into me. But I feel him on the other side, kind of guiding me, and I love my dad. I miss my dad. I miss my mom. But I think, especially with men, when we lose our fathers, that is, it's a profound moment, because it, one, reminds us of our own mortality, but also the calling that we have here during our limited time.
Yeah. And I think that there's also, I think a great book is Wild at Heart is a good book. But there's every man watches his dad, and there's ways that their dad hurts them, no matter how awesome of a dad is, that they get hurt. And it's very easy to think about our relationship with God as the same as that relationship with your father. And we tend to think God has the same shortfalls as your dad does.
Wow.
And it's very difficult to get past that. And, I went through a season where I rejected, decades where I rejected God, because I rejected my father. I rejected the way he was with me. And I was like, if that's what this looks like, I don't want anything of it. I don't want a bit of it. But then we have to realize that, God's a perfect father. And even though our earthly father does have representations and can be a great influence, they're going to be imperfect, and they're going to leave you in the lurch sometimes. It's just.
And I'm putting up a link to Wild at Heart. Anytime that people mention books, and I'm going to get that book myself.
Etheridge. I think it's John Etheridge.
Yeah, that's what it says, John Etheridge. And it also says, every man was once a boy, and every little boy has dreams, big dreams of being a hero, of beating the bad guys, doing daring feats, rescuing the damsel in distress. And but what happens to those dreams when we grow up?
Yeah.
Wow. I know that this is going to be profound for me, man.
But I think that, one of the things I learned at one of the very first dog trainer conferences I went to, ICP, and I can't remember the lady's name. She was a magnificent presenter, but she said that, really the world of the dog is mostly a female world. So if we look at who most of the people in rescue are, they're ladies. If we go to a dog show, most of those people are women. If we go to a sporting event with dogs, a large amount are going to be women. Women tend to be breeders. Women tend to just be a lot more involved with dogs than men do. And so as a dog trainer that's a guy, you sort of have to get more in touch with your feminine side a little bit and think about some of those things. So, when I think about guys, and this is a little stereotypy, but I think she was right on the head, hit the nail on the head, is that men want control and they don't want to look stupid. So they want not to listen to them and not make them look stupid. Women want their dog, they want to have a good relationship with their dog, and they want their dog to be safe. And so when I left that presentation, I went home and I tore my whole website apart, because my website was riddled with control your dog, you'll be cool. Control your dog, you'll be cool. Guy stuff. And my audience and my main audience is women. And if I can't speak to that and get into that same clique, it's not going to work. So I rewrote my website and tried to be more about relationship and safety. And that really helped me, I think, with my primary client base, which is really ladies, women.
Well, I tell people 80%, 85%, 90%. Here you go, man. redeemingdogs.com. I'll put a link in the comments below, but look how handsome you are, man.
Look at all these dogs that died. It's sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
All the first dogs I trained have passed away. And I really need to overhaul my website. I haven't done it in ages. I've gotten kind of lazy. I'm at the point now where so much of my business is referrals and previous clients and vets sending people my way. And I just don't keep up my social media presence the way that I used to. I used to put a bunch of videos on YouTube. I think I have 400 or 500 videos there, but now I just take a video, send it right to the owner, and they're my audience. So I've
Well,
failed on that.
guess what, dude? I want to go back here really quick. So a little bit, we're going to touch back to Hutto hippos.
Okay.
Because as I was sharing the screen, I remember that I pulled up this article, and so we were chatting about, and we'll get back onto this point, but Hutto hippos back in 1915. Look at this. There was a train depot, or there was a circus that came into town, and according to folklore, an L escaped from its keeper, running towards Cottonwood Creek. And the train depot agent reportedly sent the following message to the nearby community: "Stop trains, hippo loose in Hutto." So there you go, man. That's why they're the Hutto hippos. And now let's get back to, I believe, 90% of my clients are women, right? And not only that, but it's also they want to be heard. Women want to be heard, and they want to know. And not only that, but they have a nurturing aspect to them. But sometimes the nurturing aspect for a dog can be taken advantage of. Sometimes it looks like a sucker to a dog, I think, and I've said that. And what do you think about that?
I think that can be true. I think that women get put in a really bad spot, and I try not to get angry, but sometimes it does make me angry the way that, like the dad or the dad or the kids will go pick a dog out and bring it home, and then they drop it in the house, and now it's her responsibility. She has to feed it. She's got to take it to the vet. She has to train it. She's where the rubber hits the road. And lots of times she didn't want to sign up for that, or she didn't sign up for that.
And she already has enough on her plate because she's basically the glue that holds that family together. I see a lot of times.
And then the other thing that I see that will frustrate me is grown children that will get a dog just on a whim. And when the dog doesn't work out, they dump it on their mom. And so now their mom has this grown dog that has behavior problems. That's why it got dumped with her. And they feel they feel this indebtedness to their kids to take care of this dog. And they really maybe don't even like the dog. And they really put him in a bad spot. And it's very frustrating for me. I think, if you sign up for something, you sign up for it, but you don't sign up for your kids' stuff. I don't know. Maybe you do, but I've gotten very frustrated with very well-meaning, loving parents that have been stuck. Their adult children have given them dogs, and they're trying to navigate through that.
It reminds me of a story. I got to say, the 71-year-old lady was being pinned up against a wall by this Rottweiler that her son dropped off.
Yeah.
And I was like, we need to get rid of this dog. And do you know what she said, Todd? Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. And I was like, yeah, dude, why are you with it? Why do you have this dog? You should have a corgi or a freaking a Cavalier King Charles, or, a cocker or something. Why do you have this dog? And he says, my son just dropped him off one day. And I'm like, where's your son at? And I couldn't get a hold of the dude. And it turns out that he actually was a drug addict. And I mean, I don't know, but the only aspect of that I could help with, I did. And so we found a new home for that dog. And just the look on her face of relief when I said, you need to get rid of this dog. And and that's what I think of, man, is anytime that this happens. And that was the most extreme case that I've dealt with. But it's a lot of times these kids are, fresh out of school to go to the apartment, kind of like what you did when you first got the Dalmatian. You were at a party apartment, and luckily you had a dog that was like what we call push button dogs, that was hanging out by wanting to please you in the pool, and sticking around this area that you were partying at, where a lot of dogs might not do that. Most dogs won't.
Yeah. I didn't know that then. I thought every dog was like that. You just turned it loose and it stayed wherever you told it to stay. But yeah, that's a frustration. Yeah, I have to make these women's lives better. And I'm kind of, I don't know, I think I'm a rare dog trainer in the sense that really I'm in dog training to help people. I'm not in dog training because I just am obsessed with dogs and I want, I feel like an ability with dogs is what God gave me, but he gave me that to help families and to help people with their dogs. But, if the dogs happy and the people are happy, everything's going to work well. But if you just go at it with I'm here for dogs and I'm all about dogs and people suck, you're never going to be successful, because the person is the linchpin for success. And if you get the person successful, the dog is going to be successful.
Well, and it's also about teaching too. Why do you do 3 hours? And
Well,
is there
it's kind of, and first of all, in my defense, when Nelson Hodges used to do in-home consultations, they were 5 hours. Nelson's was 5. But I do mine that way for a couple of reasons. One of them is I need to be there for a long amount of time to see what's really going on. When you go in the door, things are kind of surface, but the longer you're there, the more things come out and the more things you learn. And you can only keep a face on for so long, and then stuff starts to pop up. And the other thing too, is just from a logistics standpoint of almost all my clients will be a 45-minute drive. When I started this in 2008 full time, all of my clients were in the wealthy areas of Dallas and Fort Worth. And so it was either a 45-minute or an hour drive each way. So I couldn't spend a lot of time in the car. So I would go, I'd spend a lot of time with them, and then I'd go. I've never sold like in-home lesson packages. I think people that do that, it's a great thing. It's a good service. I just don't do that. If I can't help you make profound changes in that 3-hour block of changing how you see your dog and work with your dog, I'm probably going to suggest maybe a board and train for that dog.
Okay. It makes sense to me. And I actually will stay with people for numerous days where I go, and usually it's out of town. Like I have to fly somewhere, and I'll stay with them, and it might be a little awkward at first, but it's a couple things, man. They see how I deal with things, and then I can kind of see that dynamic unfold of the family unit. And I love it, but you know why? Because everybody's the same in some sort of way, man. Like it doesn't matter your station in life. I work with very, very wealthy people that argue about the same stuff that my wife and I argue about, man.
Yeah. And in some ways, I think their life is more complicated because they've got more plates in the air.
Yeah. And they don't know. I mean, sometimes people want to take advantage of them, and it takes a degree of courage to be affluent. And I've seen that, right? And because they have so many more plates in the air, and they become a target for liabilities as well. And if you got a dog that's going to bite somebody, man,
Deep
pockets. I got somebody that was sued for $600,000, dude, for a dog that they opened the door, the dog ran out and bit a guy's ankle. And like I've had people I know personally that have been judgments against him, 40,000. This dog actually, they went and settled for $100,000. So the insurance company did, and I mean it's a liability, and when you have things, people, it's a different degree of I don't know, targeting, taken advantage of. I don't know, but it's something. I mean, just like I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey, right? And he talks about financial advice and living debt free, but he says that there's an aspect of jealousy where people are mad that you have something that they don't. But he says that it gets really, really dangerous when we start getting into the envy, where you have something that they don't, and they're mad about it, and they don't think you should have it either.
Yeah. It's funny. If you look at the 10 commandments, so really, if you follow the commandment that you should not covet, if you follow the commandment that you should not covet, you're unable to commit any of the other sins.
What do you mean?
Steal, you won't kill. You're not.
Oh yeah, of course. Yes.
You won't you won't fool around with somebody else's wife. You basically, that's the most important one. Is that, and social media is awful for that, because it's just like a covet factory. Everybody sees everybody's stuff, and they just see the good part, and they go, man, I wish I looked like that, or I lived there, or my spouse looked like this, or I had that car, or I live that lifestyle. And it just shoves us into coveting so much.
It's one of the reasons why I do these things live streams, because I want people to see how we talk and just sit in on conversations of professionals that really, really do every single day. Like you were saying about summer, we bleed dogs, some of us, right? It's day in, day out, eat, sleep, breathe. Like I got so many dogs here right now. I have a dog here down here. I have a dog. Oh, let me do the puppy, dude. Everybody loves the puppy. So let me grab one of my puppies here. Is barking or dream. Oh, he's so freaking cute now because he's starting to get big enough that he's wagging his tail and running around.
It's like a baby bear.
He's a baby bear. Listen, can you hear him? What do you think about that, Bubba? Hmm? But just watching things, what we don't realize a lot of times on the social media stuff is that, oh my gosh, stop it. You stop this. Is that it's edited and it's curated and it's just meant to show the good stuff instead of the whole unfolding of the process, right? And there is, oh, stop. You guys better be sharing this right now. Look at this little guy.
That's a lot of people's kryptonite right there. The dog does that. I got to have that dog. I'll do anything for the dog.
Oh, stop it. Yep. Well, and this is like, that's when they try to make emotional decisions, not realizing that this guy's probably going to be a little hellion when he gets older, like running around and a lot of energy and a lot of work, man. These guys definitely deserve that. They deserve to be understood, not just on the surface level, right? But deeply understood and fulfilled. And that's why I've traded my life to work with dogs, is to help these guys become fulfilled, not just the human side. Right, Skipper keep up. No, he's sold already. This guy's going to Colorado. I have a little waiting list already for my Skipper key. So they seem to be very popular, and I make sure they go into really good homes, and that's actually what this little doggy is modeled after, is a Skipper key there. So
in full crazy mode.
In full crazy mode, yes. And they get crazy, man. They get really crazy. So but it's also the nurturing aspect of women with puppies too. And yeah, I mean there's so much to this, but it's, when is your favorite time to get a client? When is a favorite time?
My dream client setup is, and some of my long-term clients, they're on, I have families, I've trained 5 dogs for that family over the years, and lots of times they have a good experience with one dog. So they get another, it's like, well, we're going to get another dog. But lots of times they'll send me a picture of the puppy that they're thinking about buying. And they'll say, I want to set up an in-home to go over this when the puppy gets there. And then we want to set up a board and train when they're 6 months old. So if I can get with those people while that dog is still in the socialization window and correct misconceptions about how to socialize that dog, man, when it comes here, it's bulletproof, and I just got to train it to do stuff. And we go out and have lots of fun. But the farther they get down that continuum, the more I'm going to have to do socialization and behavioral stuff because they didn't start the dog right, or they just got the dog as an adult and they don't know what they know or what the dog's been through, but it's got some baggage. So
sometimes they make up stories about what the dog's been through,
They do. But my dream client is somebody that I can get started on the right foot with correct socialization and how to see the dog correctly. And then when the dog comes to me for 6 months, it's bulletproof. It's fine with new environments. It's just like, yeah, what are we going to go do? This is fun. And then it's just a joy.
So what do you see? What do you recommend people to see the dog correctly? What does that mean?
And a lot of this is going to influence and hinge off of Nelson's stuff. But I think in terms of dogs care what's underneath their feet. Dogs care what's underneath their chin. We see dogs put their feet over another dog. That tells you something. We see a dog put its chin over another dog's back. That tells you something. And a lot of the things that we think of as affection. So if I've got a dog and it's on my lap and its feet are on me and it's acting hinky and I'm petting it, I'm sort of reinforcing all that stuff, and the dog's over me and got feet on me. So just simple things like that of just have the dog next to you, have the dog on the floor next to you, not on top of you. Some simple things about socialization, like don't let people fiddle with your dog in public. Take your dog out in public, but don't let people fiddle with it, because you're creating an expectation. Drag it all over the place with you, but don't let people mess with it. Just give the dog some real simple rules there. Oh, and overtired. So many people, they let that puppy run itself in the ground and fall asleep wherever it goes. Just like a child, when they get tired and cranky, you can't reason with them, they need a nap. So, creating a realistic sleep schedule for this dog. And if we don't start to show a dog early the things it's going to have to deal with in life, we're doing that dog a disservice. You're going to probably have to be crated. There's going to be times when you aren't around me. I had a client, and he was sort of bragging, but he said, my dog is 6 years old and I've never been away for longer than 9 hours. Never been away longer than 9 hours.
That's unhealthy when I hear that.
It's unhealthy. And they think that they're doing an amazing thing. And it's not realistic in the sense that dog's going to have to be away from you sometimes. And you've created a dog that doesn't know how to deal with that or handle that. And it's going to be very traumatic for the dog when those things happen. So I'm just trying to set the dog up for success. And I think one of the things I do bring to the party is that I live with my dogs. I try to live with my dogs the way people would live with their dogs. So I don't spend, 6 hours training my rat terriers every day. I'm not trying to go out and find, amazing things for them to do, which is fine if you want to do that. But most of my clients don't live like that. So I live with my dogs the way I ask my clients to live with their dogs. And I try to create an environment that's sustainable. So if you can't create a sustainable environment, like if I told you need to bicycle this dog 10 miles a day, twice a day, 10 miles in the morning, 10 miles in the evening, and then it'll get its needs fulfilled. Nobody can do that.
Yeah.
Nobody.
It's unrealistic. It's unrealistic. And I mean, it might happen for a week or a few days or something. And same thing with trainers that take their dogs and they're like, a tired dog's a happy dog. And it's like, look, man, you're making a super athlete that you're bringing back home to them. Right. Yeah. This dog needs to learn how to calm themselves down.
Right.
This dog needs to learn, the importance of discernment. This dog needs to know that in the human world, there's a lot of contraptions that they might encounter that invoke a fear response or make a lot of weird noises that yep. are foreign to you. Right. You need to light your cigar again there, buddy.
Oh, no, this is like my one vice. And I have an addictive personality. So, alcoholic for a long time, but cigars are the one vice that I can get away with because it's not convenient. It takes an hour. You have to be outside. So a lot of the time I just can't mess with a cigar because it's too much of a pain in the butt. So yeah, if I was a cigarette smoker, I'd probably be like a 2-pack a day guy, but I only smoke a couple cigars a week because I don't have time.
Well, when you've started that cigar, where's it at now? Let me see.
It's
getting down there, man. When you first started it, I was like, that cigar's bigger than you, dude.
One of my things that we talk a little bit about faith and men's groups and stuff and men, improving men. So I'm part of a group, and it's the best men's small group I've ever been part of. And it's called Holy Smokes. And what we do is we just gather around a fire pit, couple nights a month, and we have cigars together and talk about life. And anybody is welcome to come, but it's largely, a lot of the people there are pastors or they're believers. But we welcome anybody. We welcome anybody that wants to come. And it's just something very, very disarming about just being relaxed and having a cigar. And some of the guys drink. I don't drink anymore, but some of them will drink or whatever. And guys can kind of let down their guard a little bit and relax and talk about stuff. I always kind of joke that guys don't. I think women bond face to face. Guys bond shoulder to shoulder. Guys bond doing something together. Guys bond, as they're moving through a struggle or they're moving through something. So guys, great. You'll have great bonding in a duck blind. Sit next to a guy, or you're putting up a fence together or something like that. So we do better shoulder to shoulder.
Fishing. fly fishing next to each
Fly
other.
fishing, anything like that where we're doing stuff. And
Mhm.
again, this is some
Hunting.
generalization. It doesn't apply to everybody, but but that's so. Whenever I'm going to be doing conversations now with somebody, if I can do it outside and have a cigar and it can be more conversational, I like to do that.
Even though we're face to face, we're still shoulder to shoulder here, buddy. And guys, I'm going to come to your comments here in just a second. We got a lot of comments to catch up on, but I also wanted to touch on sleep. Sleep is so important. Like you were saying, like they run these puppies ragged. And I read in a book called Nurture Shock, or I'll put up a link in the book. Anytime I mention books, I'd like to put them up here. Nurture Shock. And when I did take custody of my sister's young kids at one time, I went and I studied. I'm like, dude, what am I getting into? And this book was super important, man. Just because it taught me, it's called Nurture Shock, New Thinking About Children, and Poe Bronson and Ashley Merriman. And one thing that I learned in that book is that 1 hour of sleep lost is equivalent to a grade level dropped in that kid's processing ability and cognitive ability, right? And so that's important to know that, even as puppies, like this guy behind me is probably sleeping, 18 hours a day. And it's something that we have to, if not more, sleep. What is that?
So,
but that's a great point, and I just wanted to come back to that with the dogs, about just letting them run ragged. And the other thing that I say, Todd, is like, this dog has a small brain. He needs a small world, dude. You're letting him have this whole world, and we need to refine it down into this little area so this dog can get confident,
right.
In a way that they learn the best.
So a huge influence on me would be Mark McCabe. His training between the
Great.
system. And a lot of what he talks about is a grade school model of, like, we intuitively understand with kids, you have to start off with kindergarten and first grade and whatever. And then if we took a kid to a college setting and he was 10 and he did horrible, we would go, well, of course he's horrible because he's not ready to do any of the stuff yet. We've never sequentially increased his difficulty. But for some reason, people will go, I have this puppy. My dream is to take my puppy to a festival. So here I go, off to the festival. I haven't done any work with this dog in simpler places. I haven't gradually increased stress levels, and then the dog fails and they go, this is terrible. This is a bad dog and I'm a bad trainer and I'm a bad owner. And they just didn't increase in a sequential way that made sense to the dog. And, if we look at how dogs sleep, we're diurnal. So we get up when the sun hits us and we kind of get sleepy when it's dark. And that's a normal pattern for us. But dogs aren't diurnal. Dogs kind of have an activity pattern in the morning because their eyes work better in low light. And then they're asleep in the middle of the day. And then they have an activity period in the evening, early evening. And then they sleep in the middle of the night. So that, I find people don't understand that. And they try to keep this dog diurnally, and it's running around all the time, and it's tired and cranky, and it just needs a nap. They just need to put it away and if it was a child, they wouldn't go, you're a 2-year-old. It's 1 PM. I knew you had lunch. You're being a pill, but I'm going to reason you through this. You would put that kid in a crib and let him sleep for an hour or two, and then they'd get up and they'd be delightful. But they don't do that. They don't see the dog incrementally. Like, they just, so many times with a puppy, they see the end result. This is where I want to end up. So this is where I'm going to start. And it just sets you up for failure.
Yeah, well, it's a misunderstanding, right? And we call it degree of difficulty, and just like the degrees on the thermometer as we raise it up. Is that a stick you got on that bad boy?
No, it's just a stabber. I just stabbed the cigar. This cigar is too good to throw it out yet. So
love it.
If you found a cigar in the street, this is how you would smoke it, because you'd be like, this is all that's left.
Yeah, totally. You're
funny. So I might as well do it too.
Degree of difficulty, baby stepping, right? And not only that, but sometimes we have to take 2 steps back in order to take 10 steps forward. Or sometimes we have to realize that, you know what? I've heard the saying that 90% of our problems as human beings can be fixed with a good night's sleep, right? And so that is huge too. It's just like, and there's this freaking podcast with Joe Rogan and the sleep guy. I gotta find it, man. Now that I'm talking about it, it blew my mind on the benefits of sleep. Like, it will blow your mind too. You guys, you guys got to listen to this. And not only that, but Joe Rogan is one of my inspirations for this as well, right? The long form talks that he does. Sleep, let me see, sleep experts. Oh, there it is, 1109. Oh, it's still on YouTube too. So I'm going to get this. It's not just on Spotify, but episode 1109 of Joe Rogan. I'm putting it in the comments right here. Listen to this, you guys. It is so, it's crucial. It's crucial. Let me see if it is Matthew Walker. It is Matthew Walker. Noah, you are correct. And yeah, and Noah, since you know this, what did you learn? I'm talking to a gentleman in the comments here that I just did a live stream with too. Noah, what did you take away? What was one of your biggest takeaways from that conversation with Joe Rogan and Matthew Walker? If you don't mind, put it in the comments down below. All right, I'm going to go to the comments. Is that okay? Or do you have anything to say on sleep?
I think that, so it sounds crazy because I'm sitting here smoking a cigar, but I'm a health nut. I'm in the gym 5 days a week. I'm careful about what I eat. I try to keep track of my hormones. And if you don't sleep enough, that is the secret weapon that everybody overlooks. They're nuts about fitness and working out, and they want to eat right, and then they don't sleep enough. So, it's a linchpin. It's a linchpin. You gotta guard your sleep and make sure you get it in.
It's so crucial. And even with the medical, like they say 1 in 5 medical mishaps happen because either the resident or the surgeon or whatever, the doctor, is lack of sleep. Like and why do we put so much emphasis on so many things but not sleep, right? And that's another aspect of the weed intake that I did before I quit smoking weed, man, is that I used it to help me sleep, I thought. Right. And I watched this guy, Andrew Huberman, I believe, and the effects of marijuana on your REM sleep. And I realized, dude, I'm not getting the beneficial sleep that I need. And I would wake up. I remember waking up and smoking weed to go back to sleep. It was something that that's when I knew that I really had a problem with this stuff. But it wasn't the beneficial sleep. And the crazy thing is that when you stop smoking weed and you go to sleep, your dreams are so vivid. And that's the other aspect of this that I took away, is like, look, dude, this weed that I'm over partaking in is stealing my dreams. And it might be it's stealing my dreams literally, but it might be stealing some of my dreams figuratively as well.
Yeah.
And so.
And I think every addiction has some kind of a cost like that. So for me with alcohol, it was my memory. So my long-term memory is shot. I barely remember hardly anything from the day I got married. I barely remember things from my childhood. I barely remember things day to day. Short term, I'm good, but long term stuff, a lot of it, I don't have memories of it. And that's, for me, that was the one thing that drinking stole from me that that was worse than anything else, is just my memory. I don't remember stuff. And sometimes I think that that's more of a gift too, because it forces me to be present, because frankly, a lot of the past, I just don't remember. So I'm present because I don't have a lot of stuff to get back, bogged down in previously.
Well, and they talk about like guilt and sadness and regret lie in the past, where we have to live in the past to remember all these things that we regret, guilt, or or sad about. And then fear, anxiety, and trepidation, all that stuff lies in the future. In the Eckhart Tolle book, The Power of Now, that's where he speaks about like living in the now, living in this moment, living present is basically what we have in front of us as time unfolds. And I think that it's a lesson that we can learn from these dogs.
Well, and he stole that from the Christian Judeo Bible, because what's the name of Yahweh? I am that I am. Be still and know that I am.
Yes.
Not be still and know that I was. Be still and know that I'm going to be.
It's present moment, present tense.
I am. Yeah. So.
All right, we're going back to comments here. That's what a great point there. Never satisfied mentality. That's, I think we were talking about the dogs. I don't remember what we were talking about, but puppy breath. Yes, when I was getting the puppy, Skipper, keep puppy. Keeping him? No, he's going to Colorado. Look who's here, Ted FDMitis, you guys. Mango Dogs, you guys, mangodogs.com. Ted is looking for help up here in the Seattle area. If you guys are looking for part-time to be a dog trainer, check them out at mangodogs.com.
So
And Ted is.
So Ted, are you still in the ministry doing the water wells? I knew that you were in that ministry for a while.
I don't know if we'll find out here if he answers. And he's watching from YouTube, you guys. And if you wouldn't mind heading over, we're streaming on YouTube as well. And if you know people that speak different languages other than English, I translate all of my videos into multiple languages with subtitles, just so we can reach as many people with this content as possible. And if you're there, you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button. I just found out that 70% of people that watch my videos are not subscribed. So I would so appreciate that. Can I pet that dog? Can I pet that dog? And then Noah just, no. Hey, what's up, Josh? Josh Wiggins is here. Josh, dude.
He's an amazing dog trainer. The first time I saw him work in his lab, he blew my socks off.
Josh has got an open invitation. I got to get back with him on doing a live stream with him as well. And bird hunting is in my future, dude. Not only I got my Bible right here, but then I also have gun dog sensibility. I just got this one Hup for the Flushing Spaniels the American way, and I found out that there's a totally different training for the Europeans versus Americans, man, and because of our geography, and then also the flora and fauna that we find around us, more birds in Europe, and it's blowing my mind. But that's like, look at him out in the field there, dude. That's my future right there as well. I love just being out and watching the dogs in their element. I wanted to talk to you about the whip on an episode of Dog Whisperer, and the daddy had never heard one. He got to work him through. Okay, cool. In the episode, how a dog can never really understand all possible variables. Okay. Sleep. What is that?
Summer doesn't believe in sleeping or eating. If Summer contacts you to eat, this is what it looks like. She sends you a text and says, "Do you want to eat? It's 2 PM, and you say, I can do it in an hour." And she goes, "No, I have to eat now, or I'm about to pass out."
Drop.
So she waits till the very last second until she's almost dead, and then she eats.
She red lines it. Nurture Shock. One of my clients just recommended this book to me for conversation. Isabella, fantastic book, man. I mean, so many takeaways from that book. One of the other takeaways is don't focus on the outcome, focus on the effort with the child, right? Don't tell them they're smart. Don't let them know, hey, I'm proud that you endured through that. If we put them up on a pedestal, a lot of times they're afraid to challenge themselves by and remove themselves from this pedestal that we have placed them on. And so it's a wild thing. They took 3 groups of kids, or 2 groups of kids, gave them 3 different puzzles. The first puzzle was easy. Second puzzle was a little bit difficult. The third puzzle was like Mensa level, where these kids would not figure it out on purpose. They wanted to see how they confronted challenges. And the first group of kids, they said that you're so smart. The second group of kids says that was a good job. Way to go. Way to exude the effort to get through this puzzle. Second puzzle come out, and the majority of the kids that were told they were smart, as soon as they encountered some type of challenge, they gave up. And the most of the kids that were told good job on the effort, they endured through that. Now, when they got to the third puzzle, the kids that were remaining on the smart side, they all gave up. So 100% of the kids. But ones that they focused on the effort, some of them, they had to actually pull them away from these Mensa level puzzles. And they heard comments like, this is my favorite one. This is like they wanted that challenge. And so that Nurture Shock, you guys, especially if you have kids, read it. It's worth it. Matthew Walker, that's the gentleman on the podcast with Joe Rogan. My Malinois are supposed to sleep. What? The first Malinois I ever had was one of my employees got a puppy, a Malinois puppy, and I was watching this dog sleeping, and I just did a little, and the dog ran to me without being awake, dude. That's when I was like, whoa, this dog is intense. Like, he was just jumped up and started running to me. And that's when I knew that this was nothing like I've dealt with before. These dogs, some of these dogs are crazy, you know. They're just intense dogs, you know. People get a dog out to train for 15 plus minutes and they never watch their dog. Good point. They just keep doing and correcting and never just watch the dog's reactions. It's so helpful to video yourself. I highly recommend that. I videotape myself blowing glass too, so you can see mistakes that you may be making more clearly, or just have some people humble yourself and put yourself in a group of dog trainers. And I remember I had to teach a class or teach a like an element of a lesson to the Napopo Silver or Gold School when I was there, and I was teaching the dog how to put their nose into the jars, and then I presented conflict. So I gave the dog the choice to have some treats in one hand or the jar in the other, and I wanted them to go to the jar. I wanted to avoid the conflict and go to the jar, and I did it. But then people let me know that every time that I said okay or clicked the dog, that I was bowing my head, and I had no clue that I was doing something. But it blew my mind. I was like, I am. Right. And I didn't videotape it. So other people around you can help you as well. Just be humble and be vulnerable and allow the teaching to happen. But sometimes just having the video there is helpful as well. No matter how much I convince myself I can be functional in little sleep. This is what I asked Noah. I said, what was your biggest takeaway from that episode? He says that no matter how much I convince myself I can be functional on little sleep, that has nothing to do with living optimally. Absolutely, man. And not only that, but we don't even realize it's like being drunk. Like that's what they compare it to. When you're sleepless, like your response times go down. I catnap. I wish I could. Sometimes I need catnap.
And there's different sleep patterns. So
yes,
my typical sleep pattern is I don't go to bed until midnight. I go to bed at midnight. I get up at 6 o'clock. I potty all the dogs. I feed them all breakfast. This is my superpower. I go right back to bed and go right back to sleep. So by 6:30, I'm back in bed, and I normally get up for the day at 9.
Cool.
So I do have a brief break in my sleep, but I do, I go back and make it up.
Dude, I have old dogs here that once I hear them clicking or whatever, waking up their little dangle of their collar, I better get them outside, man, or they're going to be, because they can't hold it through the night, And so 5 a.m, I'm up with my old dogs. And my dogs, I'll just let out at that time too. And then I go back to bed. Because if I don't, they're going to pee and poop all over the house, and that's nothing to wake up. They're going to make you wake up. So, appreciate the kind of conversation about the struggles. You bet, Josh. And not only that, but I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to talk about this stuff. Right. And sometimes I think that people need to hear our struggles so that they can identify struggles within themselves and see that others have made it to a point where they've overcome them. And I encourage anybody that resounds with that, to take strength in the fact, or even reach out to me, to Todd, or anybody that is on the other side of this. I serve people, man. I'm a humanitarian, and when I've gone through it, it's knowledge through experience, and that's a whole different ballgame than just studying about it. So thank you, Josh. I appreciate you. Me too, catnap, I think, or the conversation about the struggles. Either one. Don't ask me about flushing dogs. That's what we were talking with this hot book. I'm ignorant as heck. Yay for bird hunters. And then here's Summer with the oh, stop it. I still haven't eaten today. What is this? Oops, did I go all superior? I don't know what this is. All superior. OFC, I did it because the Arctic wolves are like native. I don't know. Sometimes we get interesting people joining us on YouTube. It's just fine, man. Some needs to get an alarm clock. That sounds like a dog about to puke. That will wake you up and moving. And that's the last comment. But yeah. Or a cat gonna puke, one of the two. But whatever works for you, man, and just know the importance. Watch that podcast that Joe Rogan did about sleep, man. It's incredible. Todd, we've been talking for a while, man. What else? I wanted to talk about serving others, and and I also wanted to kind of, I had some lists of with with scripture, right, um, about serving others. And do you know what do you think ransom? So for this is Mark 10:45. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. When we look at ransom, the definition of ransom is to avoid a sin for life, right? Ransom definition Bible. Here, let me see. What do you think that means?
Well, I mean, to me, a ransom is a price is paid to avoid to buy freedom. So somebody's been kidnapped, you pay something and you buy their freedom. So to me, that would be Christ came and paid a price that we couldn't pay because we couldn't live a perfect life. So when he came and he lived a perfect life, a sin-free life, he paid that price for us, and he earned absolutely no retribution because he didn't sin. But then he still said, we are bound, we're in bondage of sin. So I'm going to go and pay that for you. I'm going to pay your ransom. So that would be sort of my off the cuff interpretation of that. But
Well,
you can read a verse and come back and read it a year later, and it tells you something completely different.
isn't that wild? Isn't
Yeah.
that wild how it just as we grow and like the seasons of our lives, right? And as we get older, this stuff becomes so much more poignant to us or means completely something different, right? Um, as a younger kid, I would think about control and I mean aspects of my father, right? And I don't know, just kind of I needed to learn and come to different stations or different seasons of life. But I just know that this ransom is mentioned a lot, even in before that in Matthew it talks about, but if anyone would be first among you, he must be your slave, even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. And then that's where it says to give the life of ransom many. Um, Another one is Peter 4:10. 1 Peter 4:10, as each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Right. And that's where I think that you have fallen into dog training as your vehicle to serve others.
Right.
Uh, um, and that's,
And I think that we all have spiritual gifts of us. Um, like my wife would tell you that my empathy score is 0. I'm not an empathetic person. I'm not the person to approach for empathy. Uh, but there's other things that I'm good at. Should I continue to work on that? Sure, I should try to be more empathetic, but I got to dig pretty deep. I'm not great at that. There's other things that I'm better at. So, um, and it's funny, so God called me to be a dog trainer. God, might call you to buy a coffee for the person behind you. God might call you to stop and help somebody change a tire. It's uh, the only thing we know for sure about God, if we read the Bible, is that he likes to change it up, and he doesn't solve the same problem the same way every time. So there's a uniqueness. So I think about that, and lots of times you're called to do things that aren't, very glamorous, or but that if you feel like you're led to do it, that's what you're supposed to do.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm looking through other ones here, but whoever would be great amongst you must be your servant.
And the idea of a servant leader is very consistent with good dog training. So you're going to be divorcing your ego from the thing. I mean, how much time do we spend cleaning up vomit, or waiting for a dog to poop in the rain, or uh, you know giving a dog a bath because it got skunked? Those aren't glamorous things. uh, and a lot of what we do when we're asking a dog to do something for us, uh, we've paved the way for that through service to that dog. uh, this whole idea of we're going to dominate the dog, and we're going to show them we're the boss, and uh, you got to be trusted in the way that, just like you said, that when you when Don was ill and you needed help with things, believers reached out to you and helped you. That's you got to help somebody when they're in a bad spot. A lot of what we're doing as a dog trainer is just helping a dog out of a bad spot and becoming a go-to resource for that dog. When I'm stuck, you will help me.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, I'm like an attorney for the animal. I represent their best interests, you know.
Advocate.
An advocate. Yeah. I'm an advocate for the animal, you know. Romans, let love be genuine, abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good, love one another with brotherly affection, outdo one another in showing honor. Be an honorable man. Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deeds. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was stranger, and you welcomed me. And none of these people that came out here and helped me build my fence knew me, and they were all strangers to me. And I mean, it was so like profound that I had these people, and they were from the Mormon church up here in the Pacific Northwest, and it just was a profound experience, man. Like I was in a weird place, dude. I didn't have my mom or my dad to call. They're both passed on, and my wife was sick, and she was undergoing some treatments that really, really made her weak. And I didn't know what I was going to do, man. And these guys showed up on my front porch step, literally showed up here. I didn't ask, I didn't do anything. They showed up and said, how can we help? And I said, well, this is what I need. This is what I need. I got my garden here, but I keep on getting, it trampled, or these deers are eating my crops. And we built a fence, man. They built me a fence, and they helped me out all day in the sun. And it was something that was profound for me. So
if we look at the history of Christianity, one of the most profound things that I think spread Christianity was during the Middle Ages, when there was plagues and people were in their houses sick and they were dying. Christians would selflessly go in and help those people when lots of times their family members wouldn't, or their neighbor. I've read before that was one of that impact of helping people, that when they're in a bad spot, was one of the great spreaders of Christianity in the early days. So it's a tall order for us to step up to that and kind of live in that truth.
Yes, it is. And not only that, but it's like it restored my faith, dude. Like that's what it did. It was because I had people that said that they would be there for me, and when I reached out to them, I didn't have them. And I don't judge anybody, but it's also, it just kind of broke my heart because they said one thing and they did another, and it just was a learning experience. But it's like the ones that really did show up were the people of faith, and I'm so profoundly thankful because now I'm getting to that season of my life where I'm strong again. My wife is healthy, and I'm starting to heal from the loss of my parents. And now I'm finding faith again. And it's crazy, the messages that come through in this Bible, and I read it every dang day. And it's crazy how I get messages every day. And I never in a million years would have thought I'd be that guy, man.
I have a friend that he's a little bit older than me, and he went through a phase where he would get woken up in the night, and he normally slept through the night every night like a log. And he'd get woken up at night, and he'd look at the alarm clock, and it would say 3:11. So he would get the Bible out and go through, and every verse that, like chapter 3, verse 11, or chapter 31, verse 1. And he would make a list of those verses and look at them. And it was just incredibly crazy when they all would make a coherent story, and they were like a message from God as he pulled those things out. And he got woke up like that, not every night, but over 2 years, he got woke up a lot. And just the list of those, as you read through them, it was a story of reassurance and God's presence, and I've got a good plan for you. But and I'm not saying that he talks to everybody like that, but he chose to talk to my friend like that. And it was just amazing. He was already a strong believer, but it just built his faith 100x.
Hmm.
So
it's like it speaks directly to you.
Yeah.
In an esoteric way that only you get. And I mean, just check that out, man. It's something that, I mean, I've had to freaking laugh because of how profound some of these messages are. Got to go up to a sound bath, fellas. Pleasure. Appreciate you guys. Right. And I mean, even the sound baths, like I was in this yoga studio and I had like a profound experience just listening to these sounds, man, and meditating. And I mean, there are aspects of us that remind us of our eternal nature. I think that if we really, really start to look into it, Job 12:7-10, ask the animals and they will teach you, or the birds in the sky and they will tell you, or speak to the earth and it will teach you, even the fish. All these know that the hand of the Lord has created all this. Profound. I love it. And I just bought a fish business. And dude, I left one of my heaters on and the fish died, and I was just heartbroken because I was meant to, take care of these fish, and they died. And that's where this is like, even that was why it was profound for me. Even the fish, the very last thing, they will tell you or speak to the earth and it will teach you. Even the fish, like that spoke to me just now as we're talking, right? All these things, all these know that the hand of the Lord has created all of this. So even now in the present moment, I'm getting little messages through.
Yeah. And something else I want to say about that is as a guy that's been trying to follow and do the right thing since 2005, doing the best I can, there's a huge awakening going on right now. There's so many stories like yours that people either are being brought back to the faith, or they are discovering the Lord for the first time. And people that I would never think would be in that place are in that place. And I don't know what God's up to. I don't know what he's doing, but I think it's pretty amazing. And I think that his hand is moving a lot. Either I'm haven't been aware of it, and I'm just becoming aware of it, or he is actually moving a lot in the circles that I'm, part of or privy to. I think that he's getting ready to do something amazing. I don't know what it is, but it's a very it's a very strengthening thing for my faith to see guys like you trying to live righteously, and it's just a great feeling.
I want to be a godly man. I do. And I've been baptized, and I've taken communion and been confirmed in the Catholic Church. And at one time in my life, I wanted to be a priest. And it's crazy how I pushed it all away, and now I'm coming back to it. But it's beautiful. And sometimes they're not easy to learn. God knows your heart, right? And it's just also that what I said in our Patreon talk about 1 Peter. Here, let me get it right here. 1 Peter 10, I believe it is about, is it? No, it's 1 Peter 10. Or no, here, let me see if I can find it. Anything else that you want to mention, man? I think this is also.
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, man. Here, let me see. Maybe it's not the one that I thought it was here. Let me see. Apostle of Jesus. Nope, I don't. Here, it was in the Patreon. We talked about it in the Patreon, so you guys check us out on the Patreon. And the thing is, with the Patreon, is that if you join at the $20 level, you get a week for free. The first week is free, so you don't have to pay anything. You just go there and look at our talk that we did. We were there for about 35 minutes, so 45 minutes there. So continue this as well. And Sheila, it's wonderful to have you here, man. And I want to reach out to Patrick Burns as well and have him back on. And you know, I just love you all. I appreciate you all. And Tod, I appreciate you, man. You're the guy. If I do join the IACP, you're going to be the guy I put down because
Okay.
you were the very first one. But yeah, man, thanks for doing what you do. And I look forward to when our paths cross in the physical world again. And, I'm praying for strength and love, sending you love always, and your father as well. And I hope
And
that,
if you're a dog trainer in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you want me to drag you around with me on a consultation or something, I do that with lots of trainers. I don't ever charge them a nickel. I just I want to help people to do a better job, and so if you're in the DFW area and you want to go along with me for a trip or two, you're welcome to do that.
awesome. Well, I want to do that when I come down there.
You'd be super welcome.
How far are you from Houston?
So Houston would probably be 4 hours. Everything's bigger in Texas.
Dude, I remember in Brownsville, Texas. We were in Brownsville, Texas. I drove for 12 hours and we were still in Texas, dude.
Yeah. My wife was born in Brownsville. So if you pick the right spot to drive, you can drive 24 hours and still be in Texas.
Great job, Tod. How do we find you?
You can find me through Redeeming Dogs is my website. You can find me on Facebook. I'm not great about my business social media because like I said, my business has kind of got a life of its own. And I actually refer out more people than I take in for training just because I only have X amount of time. But it doesn't take me any extra to take a dog trainer along with me to go see somebody.
Well, and guess what? I'm going to sign off with this. I found it. I found the verse that really helped me, man. But the grace of the God of all grace, who hath called us unto his eternal glory by Christ Jesus, after that ye have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, and strengthen, and settle you. And so after this big time of struggling, I'm finding that myself, I'm getting stable and I'm getting strong again, man. And
valleys and mountains. It's valleys and mountains.
Valleys and mountains. All right. Stay right there. We'll say goodbye to everybody. Bye,
Okay.
everybody. And I'll be right, or we'll be there, or I'll be doing a live stream again here shortly. And thank you all for being